When it comes to sex and sexuality, or even sexual health, what is something as a woman that you wish you knew sooner, someone told you sooner?
Ooh. Woo! Honestly, everything.
Caution that we all get amorous.
For me, that sex is a good thing.
That you don't need to have it.
Don't make it what it isn't, you know. So for me, I always romanticized it. I always thought my first time is going to be roses and candles. No, that's not what it was at all.
The first time versus what it's like now, I think the first time is really just it was a facade, because you learn about it through high school, and that's that thing of like, it'll probably hurt, or it'll probably hurt, but actually you're just there like, but why are we not given the agency to explore different things? And also, why are we not given the agency to also have the conversation about what we want? Because it's always even in the narrative of first time sex, it's always in the consideration of the man.
There's not necessarily a textbook, the right time. I think the right time comes within yourself. I always thought, you know, there's a right time, the right time. Not necessarily knowing what the right time is, what makes something the right time. But then I came to realize the right time is when you're ready, you know, and when you want to.
I think a lot of people don't pay attention, or necessarily, they don't acknowledge that women are sexual beings. The fact that we're women doesn't make us any less sexual beings.
The standard is held at a different level when it comes to women being sexual and men being sexual. It's like a man, and this is across the board, even with religion. Like, I don't know, women have always been like, you have to hold your virginity for your husband. You don't hear that narrative when it comes to a man and them having to hold their virginity for their wives.
In high school, boys were allowed to be boys if they wanted to take off their shirts during sports days and whatnot, but girls can't come with a string top. I think that that's nonsense. Absolute and utter nonsense, because the fact that they're going to be attracted to us doesn't mean that we're not going to be attracted to them. And I think that people don't acknowledge that and don't protect women in that regard.
Just in terms of the idea of sexual liberation and sexuality, it's a spectrum and it looks different for every single individual. For one girl, it could look like, you know, choosing a partner or having multiple partners. And for another girl, another person, it could look like not having sex, and that is still sexual liberation. It's all about having the choice and choosing what works best for you.
If you're a virgin and you've decided to keep your virginity, that's okay. Like, it's okay.
Whether it's religious or not.
And that thing of like, oh, you're still a virgin at like 27? That's none of your business. It's not yours to give or take. It's my decision to give it to you. It's my decision.
Stop shaming people!
Who have decided to keep it?
Stop shaming people!
I'm fine with the flirting, with the cuddling, with the foreplay there and there, but intercourse has its people. It has its people. I might be that person when the vagina comes through. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm good.
And also, if you're not a virgin and you're sexual as a sexual woman, that's okay. I think what's normalized is men having 500 body counts, but if a woman has 500 body counts, that's too much.
And I find it difficult that I can't talk to my parents or my mom about actually feeling amorous or any of these things. It's a taboo topic, and it's difficult to open these chats with your sisters or with those who are younger than you, because as women, we're not sexual beings, and I want that out the window.
I'll never forget when I watched Bridgerton and yay, girl! That episode where she did not understand what was happening with her husband, and she went to her maid and she was just like, I wish my mom told me these things. She did not tell me anything. So now when I'm married, I don't know anything about sex. And she didn't know that she's being fooled by her husband because her mom never taught her anything. So I think it's important that conversations are had within the household. Parents need to have the conversation with their kids candidly.
And if you are not comfortable with your own sexuality, there's no way that a teenager is gonna feel comfortable talking about their sexuality. So you really need to believe it, you need to own it in order to really open a conversation about it.
I wish women were taught more about their pleasure when it comes to sex, and there wasn't shame.
Woman, if you're not getting your pleasure, you need to cut the cameras out, because essentially you're wasting your time.
I wish that we were taught that sex should be good for women too. That there's nothing wrong with masturbating, that foreplay is important. That fragile masculinity even happens in the bedroom. So a lot of time women are trying to tiptoe around not making the guy feel bad, even when it's at the expense of how good they will feel.
There was a study that was done to say that only 13% of women in heterosexual relationships find orgasmic pleasure. And that's because we're not having enough conversations about what it is that we as women want when it comes to sex.
I only started enjoying my sex in 2018, where I'm actually damn, I'm there, because sex became a thing, and then it was a thing that happened to me at some point where I was sex was just happening to me, and no one was giving me the space to enjoy it.
Don't faking. Can't be faking. Well, yeah, something I should have learned is that it's okay not to fake.
I don't know, some people are selfish, they just care about them getting off. Doesn't really matter about you.
And only later, when I actually found someone that helped me liberate myself sexually and enjoy sex, then I looked back and I was like, what the fuck was I doing? And that's boring, because I really wish I got there sooner than letting sex happen to me.
I wish I'd known sooner that you have the choice to openly discuss what makes you happy in that moment, what pleasures you in that moment. You shouldn't just sit there and no, you have the choice to choose. And so you better make sure that you are getting your end of the bargain, because if you're not,
cut the cameras. Dead ass.
Oh, and that Missy Elliott was right, you don't want a 1 minute man.
If you're not enjoying it, don't fake it. Tell him. Be honest. If it's a one night stand, break his spirit. Growing up in the church, it's such a taboo thing. You don't even say sex. You don't mention it. If anything, maybe you'll spell it.
Growing up at a Christian school, girl, you know. So it is very much don't have sex or you will get chlamydia, and okay, that's for mean girls, not that.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die.
But it was don't do it. God will hate you.
Our sexuality has been neglected in a way in the church, but then overexposed and emphasized in the world. So it's this mixture of messages, both basically doing the same thing. Somehow sex is idolized in the world and in the church, and none of it is really beneficial.
This thing is in the Bible. God speaks about it. It's something God created. The fact that in the beginning He literally told Adam and Eve, go forth and multiply. That is sex. How else are you going to multiply if you don't have sex? It's a God idea. And it's a God idea in the context of marriage, because it's a protective unit. The marriage is a protective unit that protects both parties.
If anything, it's that we should speak about sex, and we can acknowledge that sex in itself is good and our sexuality is beautiful. But again, from a Christian perspective, it should be within a specific context in order to really honor God.
I think as within Christian communities as well, we don't talk enough about the fact that Christianity isn't this you must just be this bored.
It's not black and
just
white.
Say yes. Just say yes. If they say don't have sex, you say yes, I'm not gonna have sex. That's it. Your Christianity is your relationship with God.
Yeah.
This thing of other people, the crowd telling you that this is what must happen, and no. Like, you need to base yourself off of the truth, which is the Bible.
Yeah.
So you yourself must know what's going on in the Bible. If that's what you're committing to, know what you are committed to, if that makes sense.
And can stand by it.
Yes.
I wish I knew that its implications spiritually.
Energies. Whew. Energies are serious danger. You could think that you having a bad day, but it's only because the person that you were with is actually having a bad day that day. But because he had intercourse with him, the energy is with you, child.
Sometimes that's why you fall into a depression, because you found somebody that you hate themselves, and now you exchange that energy.
Soul ties can happen, when you just find yourself being attached to someone who is honestly horrible, and you want to leave the person, but you can't because you're just connected to that person.
People carry a lot of things with them. Have sex with people that are good, like background, that not are having it to run away.
Have sex with people who hold space.
Have sex
for
sober.
you. Have sex with people who hold space for you. I feel like it's a big mistake to be just having sex because you're attracted to someone, but then they're having sex over you instead of having sex with you. Have sex with people who hold space for you. It's very sensitive, it's very spiritual. So be sensitive with yourself, be kind to yourself. People are attracted about you, but that doesn't always mean that they have the best intentions.
First of all, life orientation is a scam. So there's that.
I wish as women we were taught more about our body and our hygiene.
Contraceptives aren't bad. Yeah, as much as the side effects are bad, there are certain contraceptives that can work for you.
Going into marriage, I had to start thinking about birth control. And I was like, whew, okay.
So many options.
And some people in school, when they started their period, because the period was so hectic, would be on birth control to help them with their skin, with their period, with whatever.
Pains as well, yeah.
Yes. So I wish we had more information about it, more knowledge.
I wish they hadn't lied to me about contraceptives so that I would have started them earlier.
I think we need to do better in terms of sex education, in general, and because there's a lot of things specifically that people, they don't tell you about, and you have to figure out once you get there. And even if you're not having sex, I think it's just important for you to know it for yourself and for the future. For example, things like for women after having sex, and even some say before having sex, going to pee. Doing something like that, people don't know, but that helps you prevent getting UTIs, a urinary tract infection.
And cleaning it. Don't use soap when you clean. I didn't know that. The whole of high school I didn't know. Then I found out later that you're not supposed to clean it with soap, and everyone's like, no, what do you mean? And it's like, it's a self-cleaner, sweetie. We're powerful, okay? As women, we're powerful. It's a self-cleaner. I wish we just were taught about things about our system and our vagina that we normalize.
Keeping it as a taboo, or as you said, whispering, having a stigma around it leads to a lot of miseducation, leads to a lot of confusion, and it leads to a lot of danger for people. We see young girls and women who are engaging in sexual activity, they end up getting in situations that are less than ideal because they don't know better. They weren't taught any better.
In high school, I ended up dating older guys and stuff. And I realized some of my sexual experiences, because I was dating an older guy, whatever, during that time, I was coerced into different things, because if I was dating someone my age, they wouldn't second guess doing this for me or whatever in the bedroom sense.
Again, in normalizing conversations, I've had discussions with a gynecologist and a pelvic floor specialist that says a lot of women actually experience pain during sex, and pain is not normal, but it is common. And the reason that a lot of women do experience it and suffer silently is because they don't talk about it. There's a lot of shame around it. So once we actually normalize discussing, sharing our experiences, asking questions, you're empowered to do better for yourself, but also to enjoy the sexual experience, because it is supposed to be a good thing. It's supposed to be enjoyable for you too. So yeah, those are just some of the things that I wish I knew a little bit sooner, and I think that we talked about a little bit more when it comes to the birds and the bees.